the BAMMSTERS Rated R show, where console peasants and PC master racers unite in glorious bacon.
Come to your senses.
I'm cutting it there.
If you are here to serve the faceless.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another BAMMSTERS show. This week, episode 87. Don't have an interview for you this week. We're just going to get together and talk about some random things we found around the internet, mostly video game related, that caught our interest. And with me today, I have the lovely G.
Ooh, that sounds nice, thank you. Yes. Everybody, sorry, we're taking a break a little bit from the interviews just because we had a pile of them at one point. Now we're, waiting a little bit. There should be more of them coming up. Got some interesting ones lined up. But hey, let's just talk about, random news, what's been happening recently, and what's kind of interesting in the realm of video games.
Well, I guess I should have clarified video games and movies, because our first topic is more movie-related than video games. But I saw a brief little clip about there's a petition to remove JJ Abrams from the Star Wars Episode 9 movie that'll be coming out. Yes, the other guy stepped away. JJ's stepping back in to take over. And just mostly because you look at Episode 7 and it feels like a rehash of the original Star Wars movie. Folks are kind of not too keen to let him take over again.
Yeah, this is one of those I don't understand. Now, I did not like the JJ Abrams versions of Star Trek, but to me he seems pretty much perfect for Star Wars, because everything he does in movies is either about it looking good, all shiny, big explosions, lots of running babes, or it's about paying it back to fans and doing the whole nostalgia and go, oh look, here's a reference to that movie, and look, here's some obscure reference over there. Basically, JJ Abrams movies are just one masturbation series from start to end, and that seems to work for Star Wars. So I'd say keep him on, let him make all of them.
Tell me how you really feel, Jay.
No, but have you watched literally any of his movies beyond Star Trek and Star Wars? Like, anything he's made has been about just, it has to look good, it has to look fancy. And when it's movies that are related to previous movies, particularly old ones, he does everything he can to make more or less obscure references back to the old movies, to the point that the Star Trek reboot, the first one, was just scene after scene, made horribly bad, but in some attempt to reference back to previous movies or to non-Star Trek movies even. And it's just, ew. But a lot of people cheered on in, as you said, Star Wars 7, because, yay, look at all the references to the old movies. And that's, to me, that's what Star Wars fans are. People go, ooh, I watched a movie as a kid. Nostalgia, yay.
Well, there are those who are fans of it because of the nostalgia factor, but there are those who are on the opposite side of the fence of that were, frustrated that the movie was a rehash of Episode 4 and didn't take any chances or really try to tell all that much of a new story, is how some folks have put it. But I don't know. When I watch movies, I like to turn my brain off as much as possible and not try to analyze things too much. I think it allows me to enjoy the movies more. But I did love Penny Arcade's commentary on some of Abrams' earlier Star Trek stuff with all the lens flares. I don't know if you saw that comic, but at one point they had a little comic strip that was it was more lens flares than it was anything else.
Yeah, because that was how he thought things had to look.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to work in that universe?
Nah. But as I said, to me, Star Wars is a lot more about the visuals, a lot more about the epicness. Star Wars is a lot more about that whole, ooh, big shiny bang. It has always been that way. And I was about to say, he probably won't do it a second time. Yeah, he will, because we saw he's been the director and exec producer on the second of the reboot movies for Star Trek. Was, yay, let's reference back again. He keeps doing this, but it gets less and less by every movie, so don't worry. By about the fourth or fifth time he does a Star Wars movie, there might be something new in it. Or you're going to get another Transformer movie just in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, don't get me started. I finally just watched The Last Night, and what they did with Prime and what they did with Unicron. Man, I wish Peter Cullen would have read the script and gone to Michael Bay and told him to shove the paycheck, because that is not Optimus Prime. And what they've done to Unicron, I mean, at this point, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be a spoiler to say it, but just in case people still haven't seen it on video, do you want me to tell you?
No, because I'm already annoyed that Galvatron was designed by humans and not by Omicron.
Yeah, it's just... I just, when I thought that they couldn't ruin things any worse, wow, did they take a huge step backwards there. And that's not even getting into the whole Arthurian legend stuff that they tried to mash into the Transformers stuff, you know, which I could take or leave. I don't care one way or the other, but yeah, we'll move on from that, I think.
So should we leave the movies behind and head into the video games?
I think that might be a wise decision at this point.
Well, I should say these are not my notes, but there's something about Pillars of Eternity. One of the writers have resigned, and it sounds like that's probably a good idea, actually. The guy fucked up.
Well, I have mixed feelings about this, too. This is one of the writers on Pillars of Eternity. I guess he's, you know, expressing his own personal opinions in places like Reddit and other forums and whatnot. And because some people disagree with his opinions. Now, I couldn't tell you what percentage agree and what percentage don't agree, but there's a group of people out there who disagreed very strongly with his opinions, kind of started a campaign to try and get him fired. And they've collected all this stuff from different Reddit posts and forums and stuff that he's posted. And again, like I said, this is his own personal views outside of the company. And now that they've kind of made it into a scandal. And I would say he actually kind of did the honorable thing. He went to the folks at Pillars and said, look, I'm going to resign because I don't want this scandal that's out there now because of the things that he had said and done. He says, I don't want that to affect the game. And so he's resigned and walked away from the game.
Yeah, so let's try and break that one down a little bit. So he said and did things in his private time, expressing his private opinion. Those should not affect the company. But at the same time, the company absolutely have a right to say, you are not of a character that we want to be associated with, and remove the person from their staff. If I understood, he was freelancer, so that was fairly easy. And it's, to some degree, it's okay for people to say, if you have this person on your staff, somebody who expresses opinions of this nature, of this insensitive character, then we're not interested in buying your games. But an outright campaign to have somebody fired is wrong. Yeah, if we were talking Dr. Mengele, sure, but we're not. He was an ass, pure and simple, an insensitive ass. He should not have said and done what he did. He should take the responsibility. He did. But, you know, there's a point where it becomes too much. The witch fight becomes a little bit too much. Case in point, your own government recently said to a news outlet to fire a person because she didn't like President Trump. So come on, that's again too far. You don't demand that people get fired, but you can definitely express that you don't want to be associated with somebody who hires it.
And that I completely agree with. It's a matter of it's the company should be making the decision as to whether or not they want to keep that person on once they're aware of these things. And it's the consumer's job to either purchase or not purchase something if they so strongly feel about it. It shouldn't be this campaign of get this one guy fired, because effectively, what has it really done? The guy wrote for the game. He's already gotten his paycheck for the work that he's done, and the game is still coming out, and they're not going to go and hire a writer to rewrite the stuff that he wrote. So I don't understand. There was like this, you know, big, oh yay, we've won, but what have you really won?
Yeah, effectively all they've done is he got a chance to realize that what he wrote and what he said on those threads was idiotic. He's had a chance to look inwards, and I think if nothing else, that's a victory, because he seems to have realized he was being an idiot.
So in moving from one campaign within a video game to get someone fired to an individual consumer in a video game using it for a good thing, I don't know how much we'll discuss on this or really dig into the topic, but just something I saw that caught my interest that I thought was kind of interesting is an article that came out, I saw on the Daily Beast, that a young girl who had basically been taken by her father to another country to be sold off into marriage I think she was only, I want to say like 13 years old when he took her. She was using a video game. She had a little cell phone that she was able to keep herself entertained on. She was locked in a room with no outside communications. Somebody moved into the building that they were in and set up a Wi-Fi that was an unprotected Wi-Fi, and she was able to connect and found a chat feature in one of the video games she was playing and used that to reach out for help, which then led to, you know, someone calling the cops, who then set up a sting operation when they were able to locate where the Wi-Fi was at, and eventually led to her being rescued out of that situation.
Yeah, this is one of those we could probably, get together and all talk about how absolutely horrid a notion it is to sell off your own daughter, or how arranged marriages just, for starters, are illegal actually in most countries, even countries where it's being practiced quite regularly. Others not so much, but how it should not even be a thing these days. It belongs in the past. We should still remember it, but should not happen anymore. But the thing that really caught my eyes in this is she reached out to several people within the game to try and get help. And it wasn't until some time that somebody actually went, okay, I will believe you and act on this. Everybody thought that it was BS, or that it just wasn't relevant to them, or they just didn't want to get involved. Ouch. Are we that horrid as video gamers?
Well, there's been a lot of commentary on how toxic different video game communities can be, and I think a lot of times people don't necessarily take this stuff seriously if they see something like that, because they think someone's playing a joke.
People have been crying wolf and trolling about it, and now that it happens in real life, nobody believes it.
Yeah, I think the important takeaway from that specific point would be to take it seriously, and if the person on the other end was just making a joke and it ends up that the cops end up storming into their place, well, that's on them, because they never should have been making that kind of joke to begin with.
Yeah, I would say if you come across a situation like this, do react, because the likelihood of it being real in your mind might be small, but the impact, if it is real, is quite great. React upon it. Pay attention to what's being said. If somebody expresses a need for help of any kind, try to help them. Even if you're not equipped to help them directly, find them the help that they need.
Yeah, I would love to see gamers as a culture become far more open to helping each other out for things like that. I mean, look, trash talking in a game, that can be fun, and that's part of competitive gameplay. But there's a big difference between, trash talking and some of the real toxicity that's out there, and ignoring someone who's, really in need of help.
Yeah, and that one, it's been a topic recently for, let's say reasons everybody know, the whole toxicity thing. And you say it's part of the culture, trash talking. It's actually one of the reasons why I'll leave a game. If it becomes too nasty, the trash talking, I'll just leave the game. I don't even care. If I'm not having fun, why am I playing a given game?
No, that makes perfect sense. And there is a big difference between friendly trash talking, like a couple of guys getting together just giving each other a hard time, and being outright rude and nasty.
Yeah, we should all try to get along and be nice to each other. Kumbaya and all that. But hey, I see that there's something about one of those competitive games that people get really salty about, and it looks like you'll be getting salty about it.
Well, I'm only a little bit salty because I have to travel out of town on the weekend that the game will release the PC open beta. So Call of Duty World War II is going to have their open beta this month. It's going to be right at the end of the month, I think the 29th of September through the 2nd of October. And I've got stuff going on the 29th, and I get on a ship on the 30th, so I'll be out of town for that week.
So literally, not only will you be salty about missing out the game, but you'll be on a cruise ship getting salt in your hair.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'll have to poke Jolly a couple times, see if we can't get him to record some footage of the open beta that weekend.
Yeah, I didn't even bother with the console beta that was coming up. It's just, Call of Duty, isn't that a game of the past? Haven't we all moved on?
I don't know. As much crap as they got for Infinite Warfare, I never understood it. That game was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I know people were freaking out because they went futuristic. That was one of the fun things about the game. You're running around on the ground, and then you hop into this fighter jet, which has the ability to then go up into space, and now you're doing space battles, and you land on a space carrier and go inside there and do some things, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's probably just me. When it says Call of Duty, I'm just gonna avoid it. I'm just not gonna care.
Well, I'd have to say, with regards to Infinite Warfare, you kind of missed out on that one then, because that was a lot of fun. And as far as the World War II one that they're working on now, I've seen a couple of videos, some screenshots. I got to listen to some of the voice cast talk at Comic-Con, which was really cool. But, yeah, I would say, how many shooters do we need for, World War II?
They come around every, 3 or 4 years, 5 years. So, yeah. We just had a World War I shooter, now we have a World War II shooter, and soon we'll have another Korean and Vietnam War shooter.
Yeah, they seem popular enough, though. People keep going back to them, so... But speaking of games inside of different series, but not necessarily continuing on or following in the 1, 2, 3 pattern, BioWare has said that they're working on a new Dragon Age title, but that it won't necessarily be a continuation of the existing story. It may actually be some kind of spin-off.
Man, I remember reading about the first announcement of Dragon Age, back when we were sitting on the Neverwinter Nights forums and the first rumors started appearing. It's kind of like, what? There will be some kind of magic, but not a lot, and it will be restricted, and there might be dragons. Ooh. At this point, I am looking forward to it, but it's difficult to be excited.
I don't know how I feel about the Dragon Age series. I enjoyed the first 2, but I picked up Dragon Age Inquisition mostly because I wanted to be able to play. They'd advertised, multiplayer and co-op. Now, for me, and for a lot of the guys that I play PC games with, co-op means that we get to play together on the same team, typically through some kind of story content, if not the actual full game story. And that was not the case. This was just like separate missions that you would go and play, and you had to earn character unlocks and stuff. It was kind of annoying, and it turned us off to the game to the point where I actually never even went in and played much of the single player game.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised about that because they said it would be just like Mass Effect. It's the same style as Mass Effect 3. So these one-off go in horde mode for a while and then out again.
Yeah, nah. But their story content is usually pretty good, and if I can find the time, I probably would like to go back at some point and play through Inquisition.
I'll race you because I'm replaying Inquisition at this point. It's a good game. I know people gave it a bit of flack for not being good. The reason why I have the game was because a mate bought it for himself and said the graphics too ugly, gave it to another one who said, ooh, I don't care about this, and gave it to me. So I didn't even buy it. Thank you guys. It's nice and fun, but with all the controversy and all the issues that were with the latest Mass Effect Andromeda, do we really trust BioWare to not F it up?
That is an interesting question. And you know what? Andromeda was another one I haven't played. I played all 3 of the original Mass Effect games, and I heard good things about Andromeda, but it was one that I just haven't found the time to get to yet.
Yeah, I have Mass Effect 1 on the Xbox. I have the trilogy on PS3. I might have copies of either 1 or 2 for PC for some reason. I think I have 3 copies of Dragon Age Origins. Yeah, things got a little bit hairy somewhere. I love their games. I do, really. But I haven't even bothered buying Andromeda at this point.
Just a quick side note about Mass Effect, because I'm curious if anyone else had this kind of feeling with it, but when I chose my character, when I was creating the character in the first game and then followed through with the others, I played FemShep just because I preferred her voice acting to the guy's voice acting, at least the way the voice sounded. And nothing against the guy, I don't think he did a bad job or anything, but it was kind of hilarious because a lot, if not, I would say maybe if not almost all of the advertisement was with the male lead. So every time I would see an advertisement for Mass Effect, it always looked a little bit strange to me because I was always playing with the female lead.
That's interesting because I saw the female lead, particularly when the third one came out. I think already by the time the second one was getting a lot of advertising that it was femship all over the place.
Yeah, I think they did a couple of commercials. I can't remember, but a lot of the stuff that I ended up seeing, or maybe it was just the stuff that they played more, it had the male lead in it.
Yeah. Well, to jump back to Dragon Age in this new one, what might save it and what might ruin it is that it might not be a sequel. It might be a spin-off. And it's weird because the Dragon Age stories, what they specifically got flack for was Dragon Age 2 is after Dragon Age 1, but it's not the same story. There are links back to it. 3 is not the same as 2 and 1 either. There are links back to it. It's a continuation of the overarching story. It ties the two previous ones together, but it's not the same characters, not the same cast, even if some reappears. And you don't have that, like you said, you played femship in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. You don't have the same character at all in Dragon Age 1, 2, and 3. You have, references back to them. Or they did this, they did that, based on your save games, etc. So, a spin-off can work, but it might also just be, the last straw for people who really like the game and like to play more as the same character. Meanwhile, the ending in Inquisition, I won't give it away since you haven't played it, but that one really sets up another game. The way they walk off into the sunset is just, hi, we're gonna come back.
Well, and the way that you explained it there, I guess I would say, wouldn't each one of these games almost already have been considered spin-offs, since they're not exactly continuing on with the same characters and everything.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just want to think of Dragon Age 2 as never having existed.
Well, and another game that has found some mixed popularity, at least was pretty popular early on, but seems to have had a pretty far drop-off on PC. LawBreakers by Cliff Bleszinski and Bosky. I played the beta for this, and it's a fast-paced arena shooter. In quick, die quick, get back in the game quick. I died plenty of times. I found it to be quite fun, though. I mean, I really like the fast-paced action. That was really cool. And, some of the different character types that they have there are fun. But, I guess it gets a lot of comparison to Overwatch, at which they're kind of quick to defend and deflect that comparison. And it also released right around the same time that Destiny 2 was coming out, which might have hurt some of its sales. They say it's still doing good on PS4, but on PC, I guess the community has kind of dropped off quite a bit for that.
Someone in a chat somewhere told me they were down to 60 online players.
Yeah, the number I saw, at least in the article I read from GameSpot, had it at a little over 180, but that was over a 24-hour period, so that could easily be the case.
Yeah, I think the 60 was 60 at one point. So, it is enough for a match, I guess. Enough for a couple of them, but good luck having nice matchmaking going on. It's not a... You're right, it looks like a really fast-paced game. I haven't bothered playing it. It's not me. The really low time to kill, the really fast back-in, that's not me. I want longer time to kills. I want more intense, stay in a position, fight for it, defend it. And the whole, LawBreakers, the law they're breaking is gravity. And the way that the maps play, it doesn't look interesting. It doesn't look fun. It looks like a nice shooter if you just like to really shoot things and instantly kill things. And if you have the whole ability to navigate those weird obstacles on the map, but it's not my kind of game, and therefore I'm kind of sort of skipping it a little bit. I imagine I'm just not the only one. People looking at going, I already have a Twitch shooter. Why do I need another one? Oh, look, gravity. Yay.
Well, I'll tell you, if you thought people died really quick, you must have been watching my playthroughs. No, because I know there were some people who would survive longer and get more kills. But yeah, no, it is that quick in and out and back in type style. So yeah, it's definitely, it's not for everybody, but they did have a lot of players during the beta. So I was kind of surprised that it dropped off the way it did. And I don't know if PC players just, new games came out and they went on to other things, if they got bored with what was going on there. But the cool thing is that they've said, that well, first of all, they only charge $30 for it, which a lot of games like this are going for, $50-$60. So I thought that was great. And they're still going to keep building it. They're still going to keep adding material to it. So, they're kind of hoping or betting on that this will be a slow burn, kind of like what they were comparing to Warframe, where it started out with a small player base, but over time it really built up and has become a much more massive project.
Yeah, I noticed this Cliff Bleszinski, that he came out and said, he should probably be less crude, less rude to the player base. No, dude, be as nasty as you want to. It's pure publicity.
Well, that might be in part in reference to some things he said about PC players when he was working in back with, I think it was Epic Games, Gears of War. I think he kind of alienated a lot of PC players. And in fact, even one of the guys in my LAN group was not even interested in looking at the game because of how he felt about Cliff. They had released the first Gears of War and it came out on PC. And then I don't know if it was the second or the third one. I want to say it was the second one. It went direct to console and it didn't come out to PC. And he was kind of well known at the time for saying the reason it wasn't going to come out on PC was because anybody who had a badass PC with a nice graphics card also knew how to use torrents and would just torrent the game and not buy it. And yeah, granted, there's a lot of software piracy out there, and it's easier on PC. I get kind of frustrated with things like that just because it's like, if you think people aren't pirating console games, then you're kidding yourself, because I've seen plenty of that as well. It's probably less common than PC, but to really, I mean, it's a business decision, I guess, but to punish an entire community because of, some people who are not willing to support the game, when you have people out there who are willing to support it, it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth as well.
Oh, did the poor PC players have their little feelings hurt? If the financial side is just not worth it, if it really is a case where they project X number of sales if they go onto a platform, and Y costs, and Y is bigger than X, don't come out on that platform. It's that simple. If the PC players get upset because somebody says, look, there are elements in the PC market that are just too busy torrenting and pirating our games, and therefore we won't have the return on investment that we want, stop whining about it. And it goes for developers as well. Just don't release it. Go out and say, we did the math. It doesn't look like there's a business case for releasing on PC. And guess what? In terms of software sales, it is better on consoles. The overall number of games being sold, the amount of money being made, is greater on console than it is on PC. Also, there are more consoles being sold than PCs. There are more money being spent on PC hardware, because despite what PC gamers keep saying, PCs actually do cost more than a console. At least the ones that are being bought cost more than consoles. But in sheer numbers of games, in sheer money in terms of software, in sheer number of consoles, it's with the consoles at this point.
Yeah, and it probably will be that way for a long time. Consoles are more accessible financially. So, I mean, that makes sense.
And now somebody will again email me and say that he can absolutely build a PC with a GTX 1080 top-of-the-line graphics card that is in total cheaper than the console.
I would like to see that, because it's been a while since I've checked the price, but the last time I checked the price of a 1080 card, I thought that it was at least as much or more than a console by itself, and that's not even including the rest of the PC.
Dude, the amount of times I've had PC players tell me that I'm stupid for buying a console because a PC with high-end graphics and high-end chips, CPUs, and much more RAM than any console cost less than a console. It's every time I say, I play on consoles, that gets thrown at me. It's like, okay, well, show me. And they go, oh yeah, here's one with an AGPU from AMD, bottom of the line, and possibly some Intel graphics or what have you. It's like, it's not gonna beat it. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, when you look at, graphically some of the possibilities you have on the PC, I would say, okay, yes, there are times when it's absolutely superior. And yet, for most folks, and I'm not necessarily talking specifically about the hardcore guys out there that have maxed everything in the machine, but for most folks, you're going to get a similar experience on PC or on console, because they only have enough money to put so much, equipment into that PC. And so it's not necessarily going to look, even if it looks a little bit better than console, it may not look that much better than console. So it's definitely more accessible for people to get into the console market and, you know, pick up a console and pick up some games. It's definitely going to be cheaper that way.
Yeah. The one I keep hearing as well is, it basically comes down to, oh, but all my frame rates, I have more frame rate. Okay, frame rates are more important than good games. Well, either way, we shouldn't make fun of you PC players. You finally get to play Destiny.
Well, in another month and a half. And thank you for twisting that dagger.
But it's on, I can watch it on Twitch. It's people playing it right now, mate. Why are you not playing it?
You're just having a fun time twisting that dagger, aren't you?
Yeah, or is it a rocket launcher with a little wolf carved into it? Yes.
You know, actually, because of the way they're doing the Call of Duty World War II thing, I'm almost kind of wondering if they're going to do a similar thing with that, where they release it on console first and then PC later. I wouldn't expect them to do that, but they did an open console beta, and now here we are a little while later, they're finally doing the PC beta.
No idea, actually. Well, let's talk about a game. Isn't the next one on your little list here actually PC only? Or did I miss something? Divinity 2 Original Sin.
Well, this one I wanted to bring up a little bit because I've got a good friend of mine that ordered the collector's edition. And I guess, so the game came out on Thursday the 14th. They shipped the collector's edition on Monday the 11th. And so these things are going to be going all over the world. They've got to go through customs and whatnot. And it's just kind of funny that they only shipped it 3 days prior to. And it wasn't like they shipped it, overnighted it, or anything like that. He was telling me he got a tracking number, which didn't give him any information for days. And when he reached out, he found out that it had gone to DHL. Then DHL handed it off in Germany to regular post. So it went to the regular post office, and there's no tracking information or anything, and who knows when it's going to arrive or what condition it might arrive in. And the folks, Larian Studios couldn't give him any information either.
When you put in a lot of money to get that collector's edition, and it means you get to wait. Yeah,
it's one of those things that they kind of dropped the ball on. They probably should have shipped it out at least a week ahead of time. And one of his frustrations is that because he bought the collector's edition, you get an extra software key. And so he sold me that key at a discounted rate because he wasn't going to need the extra key, and he knew that was a game I was looking for. So I basically got it on a deal, and he was a little frustrated because it was something we were looking at playing in one of our upcoming LAN sessions. However, now we don't even know if it's going to be here in time for us to play it. So there's his argument, and I think it makes a lot of sense, was, you know, when he was talking to them on the I guess it was through emails. I wanted to say on the phone, but no, I think he was talking to them through email. Was that they should at least, you know, he wanted them to at least send him a key so that we could at least play the game, because the game has already released. And I thought, well, you know, that makes sense. You know, if they send you out a key and then they ask you just to send back the key that comes in the box, then it's not like you're getting an extra copy of the game. They can invalidate the other key.
Yeah, I'm thinking there should have been a process where, yeah, there can be a key printed on a CD or however they want to do it these days, but then still have the same key emailed to the person. So if something goes wrong with the physical delivery, here's a key. Here's your key. Go ahead and play now if there's a hiccup. Because this is not the first time somebody's bought collector's edition or the various fancy versions and then been delayed.
Well, and that was something that he had brought up to them too, was, you know, why didn't you guys just email out the keys? You know, you could have set them up in Steam so that even though, and Steam does this with plenty of games where, you know, you purchase a game that hasn't released yet, you activate it on your account, and you can't even download and install the files until they allow for like a preload, if they allow that, or until the game releases. So his argument with them too on that was that they should have been able to just send out the keys electronically. Then people weren't waiting on the box to show up. Although I will say I did take a look at what the statue is supposed to look like, and it looks pretty cool. and the books that come along with it look pretty neat. So I mean, it looks like a nice collector's edition. I'm sure he'll enjoy it once he finally gets it.
Yeah, I have this whole, I just don't buy games right when they release. Ooh, I'm sounding like an ass now, doesn't I? Yeah, collector's edition, unfortunately, you kind of have to, because a lot of them get sold out. So if you want the statues, or in your case, the little dolls, you know, to make posing and stuff, what have you, yeah, you have to get them fairly early, usually on pre-order.
Well, he actually backed them in Kickstarter 2 years ago.
Damn, he's been waiting.
Yeah, that's why he's a little bit upset.
Well, talking about people who are upset, should we try and upset Bamm, who will be editing this one?
This will be a fun one for him. What are you talking about, upset?
Well, I can see that Nintendo is coming with... They're re-releasing the NES Classic. I never played the NES's. I just, you know, either you had one thing or you had the other. I went the route of the Commodore Amigas and all that. I never went with Nintendo systems. So, for me, it's not something... It just doesn't have that nostalgia thing. Which kind of, you know, I think I covered already when we talked about Star Wars. But people really bought these NES Classics when they came out. And according to Nintendo, they never expected them to sell out. Like, they made some for fun and said, hey, let's see what happens. And it sold out, and now people want more, and Nintendo go, yeah, here, have some more NES Classics.
Yeah, it was insane. They sold, you know, as the saying goes, they sold like hotcakes, and then you would find them on eBay or Amazon for, you know, $300 instead of the $60 or $80 price I think it was when it came out. Yeah, there's some nostalgia there for me. It wasn't the first console I ever owned, because we had an Atari when I was a little kid, but it was the first console I ever bought with my own money. I remember, I think I was like 10 or 11 years old maybe. And, you know, I wanted a game console, and my parents didn't make a lot of money, you know, to have a lot of extra spending money. So they told me if I wanted, I had to get a job. So I went out and got a paper route, and I hated that thing. I got up really early in the morning, you know, delivering the newspapers and stuff. And I worked just long enough to get the NES console and several games. And once I had that, I quit that job, and then I played more games. But for me, I think it'll be a fun thing, because it'll be, if I end up picking one of these up, it'd be cool for me to show my little one. So it's something that, you know, it's kind of like passing it down to the little one so she can see, you know, what these video games used to be like, and play just like I used to.
But, you know, I was reading about a dude a few years back who, he had a kid, I think also a daughter, and he introduced her to video games in the sequence that he had been introduced to them. So he went through chronologically. She literally got to first play Pongs and the various Pong versions, and then 8-bit games, and then 16-bit games, etc. And then eventually she's upgraded to, you know, modern computer games. But she basically got to have that experience of things evolving, as opposed to going, oh, I'm used to playing all these pretty games. Why is Daddy showing me 8-bit graphics and I don't understand what's going on?
That's actually kind of cool. I wish I maybe would have had the forethought for something like that.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've tried it. I've shown my kids some older games, and they just go, oh, this is fun. They seem to be keyed into the whole, it's gameplay and it's entertainment, as opposed to graphics. But at the same time, they seem to really enjoy some of the games that have really nice graphics in them, and being able to tell what's going on.
And I think that's something that a lot of times people will lose sight of with games, is really what it comes down to, is that it should be a lot more fun than it is about the graphics. Yeah, the graphics can be pretty, and in some of these games, they really should be awesome looking and if possible, realistic looking. But it really comes down to, am I having fun playing this game? And how much fun am I having playing this game? How much do I want to come back to this game?
Yeah, and I think with things like the NES Classic, I can see people who want to come back and play the old games again, relive some memories. For me, no. I will go back and replay old Amiga games, and I will suddenly be reminded of just how horrid the graphic actually is compared to what we're used to now. I think some people are going to get burned and go, ooh, they should not have gone back, because the memories are better than real life. And one thing, we don't have that much time left, but one thing, how many of those NES Classics that came out initially got sold off by people who try to buy and then sell them on eBay, etc., at a higher rate. How many of the 30,000 they made? How many of those actually went to enthusiasts?
I have no idea. I would assume people paying the $300 for them, they must have wanted them pretty bad, though. But yeah, I mean, the graphics, you go back and you look at stuff, even little screenshots, and they are by far a lot worse than what we're used to seeing in the things that we play today. But again, like I said, I mean, I think it just comes back to the fun factor.
But more importantly, a lot of them are worse than what you remember. There's some rose-colored glasses going on here when you think back.
Oh yeah, there's some of that too.
Don't kid yourself. It's not gonna be the same as your memories. And frankly, I wouldn't risk ruining the memories of some of my games.
Well, and two, I think a lot of folks have probably forgotten the frustrations of playing some of these old games and how hard they could be at times.
That's the advantage of an emulator, because one of the things I did, I started playing a game and then used the emulator to save. So that instead of having 3 tries and it's back to the beginning, you can just reload the damn save. It just images the whole game, the whole memory block. And then you can go back to it. Because I was going back to Rick Dangerous. It's as fun today as it was back then. And the graphics actually hold up. But when you're used to just being able to replay until you get past a bit, nope, that was not the case back then.
Well, we've been bouncing a little bit between new and old and the discussion of the differences between the two, but a game that's, well, more than a few years old now, that'll be released on the Nintendo Switch. They finally have given out the release date for Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to get to play that. And here's the funny thing. So the original game, when it came out on PC, was released on November 11th, 2011. And so for the Nintendo Switch, they're going to release Skyrim on November 17th of 2017.
You bought one of those Switches, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I've spent most of my time playing Mario Kart. I've played Zelda off and on some, but I haven't had time to finish the game.
So basically you bought a console this year that can play 6-year-old video games.
Well, I might actually finish the 6-year-old video game this time around since I can take the console with me anywhere I go. When I played Skyrim, I had the same problem that I've run into with Zelda and with several other open world games. I get so lost in just exploring the world that I forget about the storyline. And so I never finished the storyline in Skyrim. I know I've said this on the show before, but that's one of the things that I think is kind of cool about this is, I'll probably will pick it up for the Switch just so that maybe I can go through and play the storyline instead of doing all the exploratory stuff I had done before.
That might mean something else when you say exploratory stuff. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking a little bit Bethesda is bilking this one, and Nintendo just wants anything and everything released on the Switch. Because come on, 6-year-old game that's been... Anybody who has a Switch and who goes out to buy Skyrim probably already had Skyrim on some other platform.
I would expect that probably would be true.
So, no. Give me Fallout 5 or something on it, then we can talk about it.
Aren't they supposed to be working on a new game? I thought I saw something somewhere. I don't know. Maybe that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Fallout Online, the survival game.
I'm not a huge fan of survival games, but I know there are plenty of people out there who would be into that.
No, Fallout I would play. I think as pretty much more or less the only one. There's some of the indie ones that look kind of interesting. We've covered some. We'll be getting back to some. But Fallout would probably be the only larger one that I would get into as an online MMO survival game. That would work for me.
All right, and that's going to be this week's episode from me, Draconusx and G. I hope you guys have enjoyed the discussion sitting in on that. If you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, make sure to let us know. You can drop them in the YouTube section. And I am going to be on my way out.
Yeah, everybody, here's G. So, apologies that we just kept it kind of simple this week. We didn't have that much to talk about, and the original schedule for this week kind of went out the window along with a broken microphone. That's why you're getting me and Drac talking video games, and that one movie and JJ Abrams. So, we'll probably be back with regular scheduling one of these weeks again. Sorry. Until then, have fun and, ciao.